The 20th century witnessed a chilling period of medical abuse in the United States, where the trust between patients and the medical community was severely compromised. This era was marked by numerous unethical practices that have left deep scars on the collective memory of many communities, leaving behind a legacy of pain and distrust. The repercussions of these actions are still felt today, as many people continue to harbor a deep-seated skepticism towards medical institutions. Two of the most egregious cases, the forced sterilization campaigns in Puerto Rico and the Tuskegee Syphilis Study, stand as stark reminders of the vulnerability of marginalized communities to medical exploitation. These incidents are not just historical footnotes but are critical to understanding the systemic issues that persist in healthcare today. These events, often shrouded in secrecy and shame, demand our attention as we grapple with the ethical implications of medical power and the ongoing struggle for health justice. The silence surrounding these atrocities has only served to deepen the wounds and mistrust. From the island shores of Puerto Rico to the rural south of the United States, vulnerable populations were subjected to unethical medical procedures without their informed consent. These actions were often justified under the guise of scientific progress or public health, but in reality, they were gross violations of human rights. Driven by racist ideologies and a callous disregard for human dignity, these programs left an indelible mark on generations. The impact of these actions is still evident in the ongoing health disparities and the mistrust that many marginalized communities feel towards the medical establishment. The stories of these victims serve as a chilling reminder of the potential for medical knowledge to be twisted into a weapon of oppression. These narratives are crucial for understanding the broader context of medical ethics and the importance of safeguarding patient rights. The Puerto Rican sterilization campaigns, often overlooked in mainstream historical narratives, targeted women as instruments of population control. These women were frequently misled or coerced into undergoing procedures that would permanently alter their lives. Meanwhile, the Tuskegee Syphilis Study, a 40-year experiment on unsuspecting African American men, stands as a testament to the insidious ways that racism can infect scientific inquiry. The men involved were denied proper treatment and left to suffer, all in the name of research. By uncovering the historical context, policies, and lasting consequences of these events, we begin to understand the roots of medical distrust and the ongoing fight for bodily autonomy, particularly within marginalized communities. It is through this understanding that we can hope to build a more ethical and just healthcare system for the future. To understand the sterilization campaigns that swept through Puerto Rico, we must first delve into the island's complex history with the United States. This history is marked by a series of events that have left an indelible impact on the island and its people. After the Spanish-American War in 1898, Puerto Rico was thrust under U.S. control, its people stripped of their sovereignty and subjected to a new era of colonial rule. The transition was not smooth, and the island's inhabitants faced numerous challenges as they adapted to their new status. The island's economy, once vibrant and diverse, was rapidly reshaped to serve American interests, leading to widespread poverty and unemployment. The agricultural sector, which had been the backbone of Puerto Rico's economy, was particularly hard hit, causing many to lose their livelihoods. Within this context of economic instability and social upheaval, the notion of overpopulation took root. The crowded neighborhoods and poor living conditions were seen as evidence that the island could not support its growing population. American policymakers and social reformers, viewing Puerto Rico's growing population with alarm, began to promote sterilization as a solution to the island's economic woes. They believed that controlling the population was essential to improving the island's economic prospects. This dangerous ideology, rooted in racist and classist assumptions, painted Puerto Rican families as the problem, their fertility a threat to be contained. The focus was not on addressing the underlying economic issues but rather on reducing the number of people who were seen as a burden. This narrative of overpopulation served as a convenient justification for the implementation of coercive sterilization policies. These policies were often carried out without the informed consent of the women involved, leading to widespread human rights abuses. The U.S. government, eager to maintain control over the island and its resources, seized upon sterilization as a tool of social engineering. By reducing the population, they believed they could create a more manageable and economically viable colony. What followed was a systematic campaign to limit the reproductive rights of Puerto Rican women, particularly those deemed unfit or undesirable by the ruling class. This campaign had long-lasting effects on the island's population and the lives of countless women who were subjected to these invasive procedures. In 1937, the Puerto Rican legislature, under pressure from U.S. authorities, passed Law 116, legalizing sterilization as a method of birth control. This law was part of a broader agenda aimed at controlling the population growth of the island, which was seen as a burden by the colonial administration. The policy was presented as a progressive step towards modernity and public health, but its true intentions were far more sinister. This law, deceptively framed as a public health measure, opened the floodgates for the mass sterilization of Puerto Rican women, often without their full understanding or consent. The campaign was widespread and insidious, reaching into the most intimate aspects of women's lives. Many were misled into believing that sterilization was a simple, reversible procedure, or that it was necessary for their health. Doctors, armed with the power of the state and fueled by racist stereotypes, began to pressure women into undergoing sterilization procedures, often under the guise of routine medical care. These medical professionals, who were supposed to be trusted guardians of health, instead became agents of coercion. They exploited the lack of medical knowledge among the population, using fear and misinformation to achieve their goals. Hospitals and clinics, transformed into sites of reproductive coercion, became places of fear and mistrust for many Puerto Rican women. These institutions, which should have been sanctuaries of healing, instead became arenas of violation. Women entered these spaces seeking care, and left with their reproductive futures stolen from them. The promise of free or low-cost sterilization was often too tempting to resist, for women struggling to make ends meet, unaware of the irreversible consequences of the procedure. For many, the offer seemed like a lifeline in the face of economic hardship. However, the reality was a lifetime of regret and loss, as they were stripped of their ability to have children without fully understanding the permanence of the decision. Many women were coerced into signing consent forms while in labor or recovering from surgery, their vulnerability exploited at their most vulnerable moments. These women, already in pain and distress, were in no position to make informed decisions about their reproductive health. The consent they gave was not genuine, but rather extracted under duress and manipulation. This period marked a dark chapter in Puerto Rican history, as women's bodies became battlegrounds in a struggle for control and power. The sterilization campaign was not just a medical issue, but a deeply political one, reflecting broader dynamics of colonialism, racism, and patriarchy. Women's protests and resistance were acts of defiance against a system that sought to dominate and dehumanize them. The systematic violation of reproductive rights, carried out under the banner of progress and population control, left an enduring legacy of trauma and distrust in the medical establishment. This legacy is not just a historical footnote, but a living memory that continues to affect the relationship between Puerto Rican women and healthcare providers today. The scars of this period are deep and lasting. The echoes of this dark legacy continue to reverberate today, reminding us of the importance of bodily autonomy and the ongoing fight for reproductive justice. The struggle for control over one's own body is far from over, and the lessons of the past must inform our efforts to ensure that such violations never happen again. The fight for reproductive freedom is a fight for dignity, respect, and human rights. In the annals of history, trust is a fragile thing, often shattered in the most unexpected ways. As we delve into this chapter, we uncover the heart-wrenching betrayal that left indelible scars. It's a tale that reminds us of the delicate balance between loyalty and treachery, and how the body, both physical and metaphorical, bears the weight of broken promises. The Tuskegee Study, conducted between 1932 and 1972, was a dark chapter in medical history. African American men were misled and denied proper treatment for syphilis, even after penicillin became the standard cure. This unethical study highlights the deep racial injustices embedded in the medical system of the time. The legacy of medical exploitation extends far beyond the Tuskegee Study. The mistrust it fostered in African American communities towards the healthcare system persists to this day. This mistrust is a barrier to achieving equitable healthcare for all, reminding us that the scars of past injustices still impact present-day health outcomes. Forced sterilization programs targeted marginalized groups, including people of color, the disabled, and the poor. These programs, often justified under the guise of public health and eugenics, stripped individuals of their reproductive rights and autonomy. The history of medical violence in America is a stark reminder of the need for vigilance and advocacy to protect human rights. To move forward, we must reckon with our past. Acknowledging these historical wrongs is the first step towards healing and building trust. By fighting for justice and equity in healthcare, we can ensure that such atrocities never happen again. Together, we can create a future where every individual receives the care and respect they deserve.